Hi there, my name is Amin Kunda and this is the first video on my channel. Today I would like to take you through my personal statement that got me 4 out of 4 interviews from Cambridge, UCL, King's and Barts, and that was for medicine. And I hope I can give you some good tips to help you out with your personal statement, so let's go. Alright, so obviously before we go into the personal statement, I just wanted to say this is not perfect, I'm not the best candidate, So I just wanted to walk through my personal statement, just tell you things that I thought was good, some good tips you could bring out from it, hopefully, and then I'll give you some tips for the new format of the personal statement, but I hope it's useful regardless. So let's get started. So to me, medicine fills a need in the lives of both patients and doctors. Whilst medical practice satisfies a doctor's sense of purpose, love of people, scientific curiosity, and desire to solve problems, it nurtures these qualities for the sake of patients. I would relish the opportunity to use my skills to enhance the lives of others. So essentially what I want to do in this, first couple lines is set out to the admissions tutor what my motivation is for studying medicine. Sorry. So what I want to do is, kind of let the admissions tutor get to know me, get to know why I want to do medicine. And I've almost set out, it's almost like I've, bullet pointed something that I will show later on in my personal statement. So I want to show my love of people, I want to show my scientific curiosity, and I want to show my desire to solve problems. So that when the admissions tutor is reading this personal statement, they're going to be like, well, he said a doctor needs to have a love of people. He said that a doctor needs to have scientific curiosity and a desire to solve problems, and he's shown all of that in his personal statement. So, it's more compelling that way. And it also shows a more humane side. And I think that's really important, obviously, because in medicine, it's not just, it's not just science. It involves people skills and connecting with patients. And that's what I said here. All of this self-improvement and self-skills is for the sake of, enhancing the lives of others. All right, let's continue. When completing GP work experience, I observed a heartbreaking consultation where a young patient was not himself anymore after taking poison. Questioning his actions sparked an interest in the brain, prompting me to complete Yale's MOOC, Introduction to Psychology, where I learned about the mechanics of memory. With a deepening interest in brain function, I researched screening for dementia for my EPQ. Interactions with patients when volunteering on a geriatrics ward opened my eyes to the prevalence of this disease. Okay, so this is a really important takeaway from this part here. And I think this most important thing in your personal statements is to try and weave together your academic, activities with your personal observations, whether it be through volunteering and work experience, because it allows you to show a more proactive approach, which is really important. I mean, if you think about it, doctors, when they conduct research, they see a problem in real life and then they go out and research how to solve that problem. So if I show you what I mean here, I saw this truly heartbreaking consultation here in this GP work placement, work experience, and then I went and did a MOOC about it. So it shows that interest, it shows that proactive nature. Here, I did the MOOC about psychology. I was interested in brain function, so I went further and I did the screening for dementia as my EPQ. And I also tied that in with, the personal experience of me speaking to patients with dementia during volunteering. So that is really important. And if you're gonna take one takeaway from this video, then it's to weave your academic things with your personal things, especially for those of you applying to Oxbridge. When your personal statement needs to be a bit more academic than the average personal statement, it needs to still have that humane aspect. So you still need to bring in your volunteering and whatnot, so it doesn't come across as too robotic. Attending Dr. Ellis's public lecture, The Science of Dreams, I understood the link between sleep and Alzheimer's, with the glymphatic system clearing out beta amyloid during slow-wave sleep. Intrigued that lifestyle changes were at play, I grew interested in the role of preventive medicine in day-to-day practices and its evolving importance in healthcare, where a holistic approach is key. So I realized that this part here is quite, it comes across quite complicated, but this is something that is quite important if you're able, if you want to apply to, you know, Oxbridge, where you'll be questioned scientifically during your interviews. It's quite cool to put in, you know, advanced science into your personal statement, and then it's almost like a lead, so the interviewer can look at that when they're reading your personal statement, and they'll be like, okay, I'm going to ask him on this, and check if he knows what he's talking about, if he's actually read up on, you know, what he's written. So if you're able to, you know, you should be, you know, confident with the content of your personal statement to be able to explain these type of things if when asked about it. So if you're able to do that, then that's great, and it shows, you know, it's impressive to the interviewer. But I also link this to preventive medicine. You know, being aware about new approaches towards medicine is also really important. It shows that you're, you know, ambitious as a medical student. You want to be involved in part in the future of medical care, and you're aware how medical care is evolving. You know, nowadays there's more and more emphasis on patients to take, you know, empowering patients in taking control of their lifestyle choices and empowering them to do better. So, you know, mentioning that and expanding upon that is really important, and it's a good thing to do. In Being Mortal, Atul Gawande explores how medical advances have created an aging population. My volunteering enabled me to relate what Gawande notes about geriatric care, specifically how elderly patients find comfort with familiarities. That's it again, you see, where I've put the elderly patients find comfort, and I've talked about enabled me to relate. So it links back to here when I talked about my, my EPQ, when I talked about volunteering on a geriatrics ward. You know, it's always, you know, showing that I'm aware and I'm able to, you know, relate things to what I know, and I'm getting more and more involved in medicine. What else? So yeah, his warning that clinicians may see deteriorating patients as uninteresting unless there is a fixable problem made me contemplate the purpose of being a doctor. It isn't the cliched saving lives, but the commitment to patient-centered care and maintaining quality of life. So I think that's really something that you can use that is quite good, you know, being able to critically think about, you know, about books, about medicine, you know. If you're able to critically think, I mean, it's almost, you know, a lot of people will say in their personal statements, or, you know, I want to be a doctor because, you know, I love science and I love people and I want to save lives, which is great. But it's also quite cliched, and it's not always the case. You won't always be able to save patients' lives, unfortunately. And you need to look at, why am I actually being a doctor? And the real purpose is committing to patient-centered care, committing to maintaining quality of life, and commitment to holistic care of patients. So showing that more, you know, like less narrow-minded approach, a more open-minded, is really a good thing to put in. Like research, innovation is a cornerstone in medical advances. Moved by the health effects of displacement and inspired by ELISA testing, my peers and I designed a patch for diagnosing common open wound infections for Imperial Science in Medicine Prize. Reaching the finals developed both my ability to think on my feet and my team working skills, which I nurtured further during my DAV expedition and organizing fundraisers for our community action group. So this is what is quite important here, is this bit about ELISA testing. So if you do A-level biology, you will know that you do ELISA testing as part of, you know, your course. But here I've shown how I've learned something at A-level and I've taken it beyond A-level. I've seen, you know, I've tried to think outside of the box, put it in an innovative, try to create something innovative using my basic understanding of a concept that I've been taught at A-level. And that's really important, to show that you are somebody who likes to think outside the box. You're somebody who likes to push themselves and challenge themselves. And that's what, you know, admissions tutors are looking for. Also, this bit about, you see, it's, you know, thankfully, me and my friends, we did well, and we reached the final and we got second in the end. But I haven't written just that. You know, getting an accomplishment, the personal statement is not just writing a list of accomplishments. It's showing what you have learned from it. So you've displayed that you're able to think outside the box. You're passionate about innovation, improving medical advancements, but you've written here about ability to think on your feet and team working skills. You've showed the admissions tutor that you're able to take experiences, learn transferable skills that you can take into a career, which is really important. And I've also linked it, with non-academic activities where I've learned these same transferable skills. Here again, I'm also able to lead. My school council representative and prefect roles require me to cooperate and delegate. These two words here, cooperate and delegate, you need to be able to show, key word drop them, but also show instances where you've done, these things, because being able to cooperate in a team is obviously very important, but also being able to delegate, that's the beauty of an MDT, delegation. Each person has a clear defined role, and when they carry that role out cohesively, they work, an MDT works to be able to give the best care to a patient. So delegation is really important, and you should mention it in your personal statement. I'm a passionate problem solver, achieving silver in the Cambridge Chemistry Challenge and Biology Olympiad. Preparing for the latter, I developed an interest in the cardiovascular system. My interest matured after attending a masterclass on cardiovascular physiology. I enjoyed making links between blood flow and biology and parallel circuits in physics, exploring equations, linking blood flow and viscosity. See, this is quite, I remember here when I was talking about, linking what you've learned at A-level. See how I've talked about, I'm a passionate problem solver, but then I've talked about the Biology Olympiad, and I've said, I've learned about the cardiovascular system. I think you learn about it in Unit 3 in AQA. But I've gone further, I haven't just stopped at my interest of what I've learned about at A-level, but I've gone further. I've done a masterclass. I've studied how, these complicated links between biology and physics, and I've challenged myself by looking at these equations and analyzing them. It shows a proactive approach. You're being super curricular. You're going above you've learned something at curriculum level, but you're going above the curriculum, which is, it shows to the admissions tutor. Like, imagine if you're an admissions tutor, which student do you want? The student that just goes through the content, goes through the motions, or do you want someone who pushes beyond the boundaries? Somebody who, wants to gain that extra piece of knowledge, wants to improve themselves, wants to improve the care that they give to patients. Of course, it's the latter. And also that thing about, just dropping in leads there where the interviewer can latch onto, like exploring equations, linking blood flow and viscosity. Obviously, you don't state the equations in the personal statement. That would be a waste of characters. But being able to just drop that in is really, it's just like an open goal for you. Like how different sciences interact during work experience, I observed different specialties, discussing patients, elucidating the value of communication skills in healthcare. I strove to develop these skills through conversations with elderly patients during volunteering and with Year 7 pupils as a peer support mentor. I noticed that during my work with the Fab Club, I noticed that one child benefited from tactile communication, such as fist bumps and high fives, whereas another preferred verbal communication. My interactions with different age groups taught me to tailor my communication skills to convey empathy and respect, a key point in Mehrabian's 738-55 rule. So this is really important. Communication skills form the backbone of a good doctor. And I would say if you're getting into volunteering or you're doing volunteering, definitely look to do volunteering in different settings, whether it be people with different needs or different ages. It can really make you a more molded communicator, because obviously people of different needs and different ages respond to communication differently. Like how I showed here with the fist bumps and high fives, you wouldn't obviously do that to an older patient because it's just not appropriate. But with younger children, especially if they are your patient, it can help to build ease them in and build a certain rapport and trust, which is really important. And also, this is another one of those leads, just an open goal. Key point in Mehrabian's 738-55 rule. I haven't mentioned what the 738 and 55 are, but if an interviewer asks me, I can talk about, what it is. So towards the end now. With patients, I noticed how listening to their concerns improved their trust in our partnership. Viewing patients as people to connect with rather than problems to solve is at the heart of the doctor-patient synergy. So this is really important. No matter how much, science or academia you put in your personal statement, admissions tutors are looking for those people who have a passion for science but have a passion for people, and that's really, really important, because as a doctor you must come across as somebody who patients can connect with, not just academics really. And mentioning, when you're around different doctors and different medical professionals in volunteering and work experience, it's easy to lose track of what patients actually are. You kind of think that they're these problems, they're these objects. You just it's quite robotic, but you need to be able to think scientifically but also show empathy and connect with patients, because they are people. Imagine one patient is one person's brother, another person's son, another person's dad. You need to be able to take that into account and really show empathy, and mentioning these types of stuff in and amongst how you think you're suited to being a good doctor can really strengthen your personal statement. Whilst this career lets me help patients in their most vulnerable state, it may show me my own. I'm, however, ready to start a journey of reflection and resilience. Each difficulty faced comes with a lesson to be learned, allowing me to continuously grow and to strive for a purpose, the betterment of my patients. So this is really important. This bit here I liked when I was writing it. It shows, it may show me my own. That part shows, I'm ready for the challenges that a career in medicine faces, and you're aware that even at medical student level, you will be faced with great challenges. However, I am ready to start a journey of reflection and resilience shows that you are confident, and you're confident in your own capabilities, and you're filling the admissions tutor with confidence that you'll be able to, take on the responsibilities of being a medical student. It shows that even in medical students, most of the time, when they're at school, they're often really high achievers, like before they go to medical school. But when they get to medical school, it's almost like a shock, because there's so much criticism, so much feedback. But admissions tutors are looking for those who take that criticism head on, and they're able to hone in on where they need to improve, and showing an admissions tutor, look, I'm aware of the challenges that I will face as a medical student and in a career in medicine, but I'm ready to take it head on, and I'm ready to constantly reflect and try to improve. That's really, really what an admissions tutor is looking for. And this part about allowing me to continuously grow and strive for a purpose, the betterment of my patients, it's cyclical. If you remember at the start, I talked about relishing opportunity to use my skills to enhance the lives of others. Everything is done to improve the lives of patients. It's always done with the patients at the focus of my mind, whether it be improving myself in my problem solving, whether it be improving my communication. It's not done for solely me, it's done for the patients. It's done so that I can deliver better care. And through having that cyclical bit, it shows that it kind of makes your personal statement more focused and more coherent. So I think that's it pretty much for my personal statement, and I'll go into some tips now about how to tackle the new version of the personal statement. Okay, so what I want to do now is basically go through the 3 different questions you will have this year, as opposed to before when it was just one big essay, and talk about what I would look to put in each question. So the first question is, why do you want to study this course or subject? So this is like your motivation question. This question normally used to come up in interviews, but I think medical schools have kind of steered away from it because it's kind of a predictable question, and therefore answers will be pretty much rehearsed all the time. What I'd look to put in this is obviously certain experiences from volunteering and work experience that when you've went into volunteering and work experience, you've seen, maybe it be a doctor treating a certain patient and you're admired by that, or whether it be interactions with patients, speaking to them whilst volunteering, that stood out to you and kind of gathered your interest in a career in medicine. In a career in medicine. So I remember also another point to put in, sorry, is your passion for science and people. But obviously you can't just say that outright because it would just come across very cliche. So one way which I, talked about passion for science and how I linked it in with medicine is, science kind of teaches us the way that teaches us the mechanisms of how things work, and also it allows us to break down large things and break them down into simpler components and see how those smaller components interact. And likewise, when you're treating a patient holistically, you analyze all parts of their lives. So the psychology, their social life, their biology, and you see how those components interact. And you can link that to how, you're a problem solver. You like to, look at problems from different angles. And likewise, when you're treating patients holistically, you get that opportunity. But then again, if you link it back to how, your passion for people, you can say that you're motivated to move away from a paternalistic approach and an old approach to medical practice, and how you're motivated to treat patients as people and build great rapport with patients. And I think that's really important. And you can definitely bring in different experiences from volunteering and work experience where you've had real connections with patients, and link that to how you want to embody that as a doctor. Okay, so the second question is, how have your qualifications and studies helped you to prepare for this course or subject? And I think a really important thing to talk about here is how the medical field is continuously evolving. So, with medicine, there's always new advancements, whether it be, new guidelines, new treatments, new discoveries. So you need to always be, be a continuous learner. And here you want to talk about, different supercurricular activities that you've taken part in, which have made you ready for that continuous learning and made you ready for research as a doctor. So for example, you can talk about your EPQ and and you can link that to how research is essential for progression and enhancement of medical care. For example, my EPQ was about the potential for screening for dementia in the NHS, and how, if you can use a screening program to detect dementia early, that can have a benefit for the patient, because obviously it slows down the progression. You're able to put management and treatment plans earlier in, but you're also, you're using less resources for the NHS, and therefore it's more cost effective. You can mention team competitions like I did with the Imperial Science and Medicine Prize. Teamwork is obviously very important, but also being innovative helps to advance medical care. Do MOOCs. Two places where I found MOOCs on were FutureLearn and Coursera, so definitely research MOOCs if you haven't already on those. You can talk about masterclasses and Olympiads and different challenges, showing you're a problem solver. A lot of the time in medicine, you're going to come across situations where, it's a massive problem and you don't know what to do. So showing that at this level, you're passionate about problem solving, you're ready for different challenges, you throw yourself into different, competitions where you have to challenge yourself and you have to think outside the box is very important. And as I said, when you're talking about things that are academic, try link them to things that you've, maybe just a line, try link them to personal experiences that you might have, like for example on volunteering. Okay, so the last question is, what else have you done to prepare yourself outside of education, and why are these experiences helpful? So obviously what you want to talk about here is volunteering and work experience. As I said in my personal statement, talking about how you've built communication skills and you're able to tailor them to different people. But also you can talk about any sort of care role that you've had, whether it be, with a family member and different things there. And also you can talk about mentoring and tutoring. As you get older and more advanced as a medical professional, you're going to be able to, and you're going to have to teach those who are younger than you and have less experience. And you need to, if you show that you've had experience, whether it even be helping your younger cousin with maths or whatever it be, it shows that you've got that in the back of your mind, and you're trying to improve yourself. Everything is done so that you can improve yourself for the sake of your patients. Another thing that you can talk about is your hobbies. I mean, I talked about this in my interview. I remember one time, because I like to cook, so I was talking about being adaptable and how you can change plans. For example, with cooking, you might have a recipe and then it might not go to plan. Likewise, when you're treating a patient, you might have set out a treatment plan, but that might not the patient might not respond well to the treatment plan, and therefore it needs to be tailored. So different hobbies can enhance different skills, and therefore with cooking I found that it enabled me to improve my adaptability and my pragmatism. So with this question, I feel volunteering, work experience, care roles, mentoring, tutoring, hobbies, I think that's really important, and especially any other roles of responsibility that you might have at your school, being a prefect, head boy, head girl, and school officer, whatever it be. Try mention that, and try show, don't just name drop it, but show instances where you've used your role and shown and been able to enhance skills and develop your skills. All right, guys, so that's the end of the video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Please tell me what type of videos you want next, and I'll see you next time.